Well, um, I was in the Amazon of Peru in the summer of 2004, ostensibly to shoot a video documentary, which was actually more of a docudrama, I guess you could say. It was a fictional narrative that was played out kind of through the medium of a documentary, but yet it had kind of a thread that wove it through with some kind of quasi-fictional characters. My character essentially had gone down to study what had happened to his folks, his mother and father, who had disappeared there 20 years before during the time of terrorism. And during the course of his travels down there, meeting people that had met his parents or trying to find out what was the deal, he gradually uncovers this a series of experiences that some of which involve alternative medicine, some of which involved shamanic ritual, so forth. And during the course of the movie, he kind of reveals to himself and to the watchers of the movie really what had happened to them. In the course of that, we had occasion to go to Pucallpa, which is a small Amazonian, Peruvian Amazon village, which is inhabited primarily by Shipibo tribesmen, who are remarkable people who live largely without the benefit, shall we say, of Western technologies and medicines. In the more the city region areas, of course, they're extremely, driving cars around and going to hospitals and talking on cell phones. However, towards the more kind of the outlying areas, they still live a life that's largely similar to, I imagine, what they've been living for perhaps hundreds of years. One of the main attributes of this, the Shipibo tribesmen, is that they do largely without the kind of the more traditional Western elements of medicine, such as we know it here in the United States, and I imagine many parts of the Western world. The idea of going to a doctor at the slightest, back pain or sign of whatever sort of symptom, and having something administered that may or may not address the most basic issue of either harmony with your own kind of constitution or perhaps your dietary related things related to stress. And the Shipibo, in fact, the shamans in the Shipibo tribe are the mediators of the wisdom through I guess you could say, the endowment of plants and species that are readily at hand, some of which can be eaten or made into teas immediately with very little in the way of training. Other concoctions, such as the ayahuasca itself, which is not just just like eating a vine or something. It's a combination of boiling, I believe, the ayahuasca vine and then a small shrub for many hours until you distill it down to this very potent beverage, which is of course used primarily for cleansing of the system, as opposed to what many people in the West consider to be a hallucinogenic substance. It does have, of course, properties that are extremely hallucinogenic, though they tend to be related, as opposed to other sorts of hallucinogens that involve like kind of a euphoric, otherworldly sort of sensation. I found the ones in this ayahuasca session that we mediated with the shamans was, I think it was interesting. I guess I should say that it started out quite with a mosquito netting over top of you, with a very thin, like a futon, in a small little shed out, or not a shed, like a little raised kind of I guess like not a bodega. What am I looking for? A little cabana, like out in the middle of the rainforest. And for about 45 minutes beforehand, we just discussed with the shamans just the nature of what the ayahuasca was, what it would do to the person who was taking it, what it was used for, what were some of the reasons that they would take it or where they would mediate it. And then after that, we actually drank a small amount of it. I'll say it was probably about maybe like a shot glass filled to the brim. Whether or not it was a mild dosage or a heavy dosage, or I have no idea, though it had the immediate effect of, I literally, as I was taking it back, I could feel it kind of reshuffling the entire contents of my gastrointestinal system. And without going into the more specifics of it, it involved a pretty quick trip to the bathroom, during which I just vacated every little last bit of whatever was inside of me, most of which was food that was taken according to the diet being a diet administered by the shaman for the week or two beforehand, before you actually take the ayahuasca, which involves a fairly strict regimen of avoiding meats and greasy foods and spicy foods and so forth. If I remember correctly, it was mostly plain rice, uncooked fruit, or just sliced, almost like a raw vegan diet, though I don't know that they would explain it as such, with some bananas here and there and some fruit juices and so forth. I don't even think there was any bread or any milks or anything. I mean, it was very, very basic diet, which, in addition to the taking of the ayahuasca, results in the cleansing process that takes place over the course of, I would say, we started in the evening and lasted almost until dawn, after which time you kind of gradually start to refilter the world back into normal, real world, and then you go about your business. Yeah.